cable, another XLR switcher, if you have one.
Okay. Yep.
Here, mate, swap. Take the swap.
Okay. We good, Richard. Okay. You go city. You swap with global, just so you know.
Yeah, I've only got one.
That's right.
60 feet.
Don't let them go away with your.
Oh, no, you get 20 of those cables out of that one. Coming.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining on short notice. This morning, Canadian workers woke up to news that despite them doing nothing wrong, working hard, playing by the rules, supporting their families, that they are about to be hit by, the companies they work for are about to be hit by 50% tariffs that are inexplicable and indefensible. There are many of those workers in British Columbia. They work for plywood companies, veneer companies. They produce products made from aluminum. They produce electronics products. They produce seeds and shrubs and bulbs for gardeners. And they provide high-quality products at an affordable price for Americans. And for doing that, they are now rightly, seriously concerned for their jobs. About 2 years ago, I shared with British Columbians my perspective that the Trump tariffs are an economic attack on our province and on our country. I think the recent developments in this negotiation, I hesitate to even call it that, with the President's team, by our hardworking team from the federal government, I think they've really revealed the true nature of what the Americans are seeking from the White House in terms of their relationship with Canada. The suggestion that Canada would not trade with other countries or reduce our trade with other countries because the Americans tell us to would reduce us to the economic equivalent of the 51st state. It's never acceptable to Canadians. And the Prime Minister and his team rightly walked away from any suggestion that we would agree to that. In fact, as Canadians and as British Columbians, what we need to do is the complete opposite, and it's what we've been doing since this started. And even before then, we've been diversifying our markets. We've been doing trade missions to other countries, opening trade offices, finding countries that want to trade with us because British Columbia and Canada has, in the Prime Minister's words, what the world wants. We're proud of that in British Columbia, and it is how our province has been able to grow despite a full frontal attack from our closest trading partner and, up until this point, our closest ally in the world. I have shared with the Prime Minister my commitment to the national project that we are on behalf of British Columbians, that British Columbians will stand strong with Canada, that we will do our part, that we understand our advantages, in terms of our geographic positioning, the resources we have, and our people, and that we will use this to the advantage of the entire country to ensure that we weather this moment. It is clear that the current U.S. administration cannot be trusted. You just can't trust Trump. Even if an agreement had been signed, how long would it have lasted? For long-term economic security for British Columbians and Canadians, we have to strike out on our own. We have to stand on our own 2 feet. That was as true 2 years ago when this unfair economic attack was launched on us by the United States as it is today. I am very proud with how British Columbians and Canadians have responded. I am devastated by the impact that this will have on hardworking families in British Columbia and across the country for no reason. And we will work hard to ensure that those British Columbians are supported and work with the federal government to ensure all Canadians benefit from living in this incredible country as we build the strong Canada that our kids deserve. With that, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us here today. For media on the line, please press *1 to enter the queue for 1 question and 1 follow-up. I'll now turn it over to Travis with Global News.
Thanks for this, Premier. Wondering what this means for American liquor on our shelves.
Thanks, Travis. My message to the Prime Minister and to the American Ambassador and to American politicians who have asked has always been the same. That once forest families who work in the forest sector in British Columbia are treated fairly, that we would be happy to put American booze back on the shelves. Obviously, that is not the case. And as long as this economic attack continues on our softwood sector, as long as it continues on our economy here in British Columbia, the booze will not be going back on the shelves. It's not a complicated message. It's a straightforward message. And I would like to see an outcome where our forest products have the same access to the U.S. market as EU forest products. Even Russian forest products have better access to the U.S. market right now than Canadian forest products. And in that environment, the idea that we would be seeking U.S. liquor is absurd.
Yeah, wondering what other retaliatory measures BC might have in mind. Are there any exports you're considering reducing or restricting, including electricity? Would you reduce sales to the U.S.?
Well, every possible tool, every weapon that can be deployed by the federal government in this economic war that is being waged on Canada is on the table for British Columbia. We are doing our part to try to identify ways in which we can support the federal effort to respond to these unfair and punitive tariffs that are going to make life more expensive for Canadians and hurt BC families, hurt Canadian families. And we know the federal government is doing work as well to identify sectors that they would like to tariff to respond to the president's unfair actions against Canadians. Whatever we can do in BC to support, we will. And we'll also work with the federal government to make sure that if BC has to bear a disproportionate burden, that we also see that support come back from the federal government in terms of making sure that businesses here are kept as whole as possible. There is no question that there will be economic pain associated with this. There already is. But it is necessary to stand up to a bully. And if you don't, they'll just keep coming back for more. And so I am fully supportive of the Prime Minister's approach here.
We'll now go to Jack with City News.
Thank you, Premier. I'm wondering, you described this as an economic war. What are we doing to help support the businesses here on the home front who might specifically be have their livelihoods put in jeopardy with these new tariffs?
Yeah, thanks, Jack. One of the key topics of conversation in the First Minister's meeting with the Prime Minister and Minister LeBlanc was supporting businesses that are affected by these new tariffs, particularly given that these are small and medium-sized businesses. The businesses that are likely to be most affected by this in British Columbia might have 20 to 50 employees. They don't have huge resources to navigate complicated bureaucratic processes in order to be able to access federal supports. And so one of the messages that I was glad to hear the Prime Minister raise is that they're looking at ways to deliver federal support for affected businesses in ways that are more accessible to smaller businesses with less bureaucracy and application process. So that'll be a key part of our work with the federal government to harmonize our efforts with theirs and to make sure they're as available as possible for some of the smallest enterprises in BC that will be affected by this.
Thank you. We know that this is an urgent matter. We've seen the trade talks, really be going full speed for the past while. This is their closest trading partner. You mentioned maybe not necessarily their closest ally anymore, but just with how significant this is and how important it is to reach a resolution. But your characterization of Trump as a bully, inability to trust any deal that is reached, is our best play here to punt and wait until a new administration is in office? And can we hold on for another 2 years?
Yeah, these are important questions. I think the reality for workers in Canada is that they are being hurt by this, just like Americans are being hurt by higher prices, and it's also affecting American businesses and slowing the growth of their economy. So everybody's being hurt by this, which is why it was important for the Prime Minister and for Minister LeBlanc to work with Washington and try to find a path forward for an agreement to minimize the harm. The reality that manifested that there couldn't be an agreement, that we couldn't agree to the terms the Americans were put forward, was unfortunate. It's bad news for everybody in North America, without question. But the message that I've been delivering on behalf of British Columbians and that I've heard from my colleagues across the country is that no deal is better than a bad deal. A bad deal runs the risk of entrenching a set of tariffs and charges and capitulations that will be very hard to undo in the long term. And the default in the last 4 decades plus in Canada has been an open, free trading relationship with the United States. It's what brings benefits to all of us. And so ultimately, the hope is, my hope is, that with a change in administration or a change in approach from this administration following the electoral impacts that they're seeing currently, that we'll be able to get to a place of stability. But I think the idea that our relationship with the United States is going to go back to what it was is folly. It has changed. It will not go back. And as a result, we have to do the uncomfortable but necessary work of reaching out and increasing our trade diversification around the world to ensure that we will not be held hostage in the way that the president is trying to right now by the fact that we've been willing to integrate with the American economy to the extent that we did.
We'll go to the phone lines next, starting with Mike from the Globe and Mail. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. You touched on the demand to have a say in Canadian trade. What were other demands that were deal breakers for you?
There were a couple components that were important to me, Mike. First of all, British Columbia, our manufacturers, when they use metal products, they often use American steel or steel from other parts of the world because it's very expensive to ship steel across Canada. And so our manufacturing sector has already taken a significant hit around steel. So in terms of discussion around additional tariffs on steel internationally coming to Canada, that would have a direct effect on manufacturers, so some accommodation for that. Bit of a technical issue, but an important one for manufacturers in our province, an important one in terms of infrastructure in the province. But the key issue for me, and the dominant one, has been the completely unfair, bizarre national security threat to the United States that apparently our lumber sector presents to them. The fact that our wood products can only access the U.S. market at tariff rates that exceed the tariff rates charged to Russia is profoundly unfair. And there was not a world in which British Columbia would be putting U.S. booze back on the shelf if there wasn't constructive and meaningful progress on reducing those tariffs for our timber sector. It's completely unfair. It's bizarre. It's costing jobs in the U.S. and it's driving up costs for people who just want to do a renovation on their home, build a deck, or build a place to live in the United States. And so the message from us was pretty clear. The softwood lumber tariffs needed to be a key part of the discussion and had to be showing progress in order to be able, for British Columbia to be able to put U.S. booze back on the shelf.
Do you have a follow-up, Mike?
Always, thanks. And another thing is, a couple days ago, you missed the First Minister's meeting. Can you explain how and why that happened, and whether that had any impact?
Yeah, these are meetings that are called on short notice. I was in an area of what I would describe as spotty internet and cell service. For example, this morning's meeting, 3 premiers attended through deputy premiers. The deputy premier was able to attend. I wasn't able to attend in the way that I wanted to for such an important meeting, and I think she did a good and capable job of it. In order to receive the update from the Prime Minister, it's not my understanding that that led to the collapse in the trade negotiations.
We'll go next to Thomas with Bloomberg. Go ahead, Thomas.
Hi, Premier. You said a few weeks ago that it isn't right that the US should tariff forestry, but also seek Canadian critical minerals at the same time. And listening to Premier Ford this morning, he was also talking about Canada's mineral wealth. Is there some specific idea that you are batting around with other premiers and the Prime Minister around using them as leverage, either export taxes or some other kinds of controls?
Thanks for the question, Thomas. I just note the absurdity of the current U.S. position. The ambassadors up here holding meetings with mining companies, trying to find secure supply chains for American business that will feed in the rare earth elements, the minerals and metals that they need to be able to produce their products to grow their economy. And doing that at the exact same time as the president is attacking key sectors of the Canadian economy and the British Columbia economy. The idea that you can simultaneously attack Canadians and also benefit from what's in Canada, which the rest of the world also wants, is an absurd one. It makes no sense. And it is reflective of this administration's entire approach to their relationship with Canada. They want to have all the benefits of a relationship with Canada, but they also want to punish Canadian workers, to bully us, to tell us who we can trade with. It is the definition of an abusive relationship. They cannot have a positive relationship with Canada and benefit from what is in this country, while at the same time attacking us, running us down, and saying that they want to take us over. And so that contradiction is one that needs to be addressed in terms of the American administration, because from my perspective, in terms of Canada having what the world needs, we got lots of other dance partners out there. And we'll be doing a lot of work here in British Columbia. I know the federal government will, to be expanding our trade around the world. And the Americans can make up a decision about where they'd like to go, but that'll be without Canada, in my opinion.
Do you have a follow-up, Thomas?
Yeah, no, thank you for that answer, Premier. So is there any kind of control or restriction being contemplated, or is it more about aggressively pursuing other customers for copper, nickel, iron, all these things?
As I said before, every tool is on the table for British Columbia. We are fully supportive of the federal government's effort to identify sectors that will bring to the attention of the Americans the importance of our trade relationship and how it benefits all of us. Because the Americans, to put it politely, are taking us for granted. And they don't clearly understand how significant and entrenched our relationship is and how much they benefit from it. I am full speed ahead in terms of how can British Columbia help? How can we pitch into this federal effort across the country to get the Americans' attention as they levy 50% tariffs on sectors in Canada that will cost jobs here and will cost Americans more money at the end of the day? And critical minerals are certainly part of that. We can't have a country that wants increased security and stability for themselves while creating instability and uncertainty in British Columbia and Canada.
We'll go next to Alyssa with the Fraser Valley Today. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Hi, thank you. So how is the province supporting BC's especially trade-exposed cities like Abbotsford, which more than 90% of local exporters mainly ship out to the U.S.?
It's an important question, and on our math, British Columbia is one of the most exposed provinces to this recent round of tariffs. And overall, in Canada, one of the most exposed to the Americans' trade war against us to date since Trump took office. The disproportionate impact on British Columbia of the president's actions, as well as the disproportionate impact on our province of federal counter tariffs, particularly on steel and metal products, is a conversation that we've been engaged in with the Prime Minister regularly. It did lead to the Prosperity Agreement and the significant work by the federal government to support British Columbia critical infrastructure development of major investment projects that we are very proud of that will assist with trade. All of those pieces work together, and we will have to work closely with the federal government on ensuring that Abbotsford businesses, the businesses in every corner of British Columbia that engage in export that are affected by this, are supported through this challenging time. I struggle to believe that this current approach from the United States will last, given the impact on costs it's having on consumers there. This is a 50% tax on Americans on plywood and veneer as just one example. But it is reality now, and it will cost jobs now, and so those businesses need support now. The Prime Minister understands that clearly. I underlined British Columbia's position in our conversation this morning about the supports that are needed, and I feel that the federal government gets it, and they'll be here for those businesses in partnership with the province.
Do you have a follow-up, Alyssa?
Yeah, are there any interprovincial measures being taken to support those smaller businesses?
Yes, the provincial trade ministers are meeting next week. British Columbia will continue to advocate for free trade across the country, including support for other provinces joining the Western Free Trade Agreement that we have with other provinces in Western Canada, and also support for the federal government creating an opt-in structure where other provinces can opt in for free trade across the country. We need to be our own best customer. We need to be buying from each other, and it's something British Columbia is a strong supporter of that will benefit BC businesses without question.
Okay, we have time for one last question, and we'll go to Jared with Sitka Media.
Hi, Premier. So everyone's made it pretty clear that the issue is with the American government, not with the people. But there are a number of American investors in BC resource projects who might support the current administration. You said everything is on the table. Would you consider maybe limiting the ability of those who are propping up this administration to invest in BC's resources?
The key interest and the key value that I think British Columbians would support, and I think that Canadians support, is that we're all going to work together as a country to do two things. One is to strengthen ourselves as a country so that we're less dependent on the United States and our kids don't find themselves in a similar position ever again. And that's in trade diversification, it's building up our infrastructure, and so on. The other piece is man, is it frustrating to have a country that gets so much good stuff from Canada and then turns around and treats us like something they found on the bottom of their shoe. And so we need to send a message to them to stop taking Canada, stop taking British Columbia and all the provinces and territories for granted. And whatever tools are available to do that, British Columbia is game for that. And I have expressed that to the Prime Minister. He and his team are putting together an initial list. We're providing feedback to them. And we will support that effort. There will be pain involved, and we will work with the federal government in mitigating that as best we can, but it is nothing compared to what we would face in the long term becoming a colony of the U.S. The issue is very much about ensuring fair treatment for British Columbians and Canadians.
And one of the ways that BC in particular can, end its reliance on the U.S. is to have more value-added manufacturing. Minister Parmar, he talked about that a little bit a few weeks ago, but given these recent developments, is that something you're going to be pushing more for?
Yeah, thanks, and that's an important question. This newest set of tariffs that has just taken effect squarely targets a sector of the wood economy in British Columbia that we've been trying to build up, which is manufacturing, trying to get more jobs per tree for the forest sector. We've had good success in that. We've supported additional investment from forest companies to buy equipment to be able to build things like furniture, flooring, building materials from wood products, create more jobs. And this new tariff targets that specifically. For a sector that is already feeling significant strain of low global prices, to have this new tariff is quite devastating for those companies that put that foot forward. But it also underlines how absolutely crucial it is that we're building relationships with other countries to increase that trade, and how important the free trade agreement, for example, with India is. India has a 10% tariff on Canadian wood products. A free trade agreement with India opens that entire market up to Canadian wood products. So this is the kind of work that we're pushing for, recognizing that the United States under this president will be an unreliable trading partner for the near term, and all we can hope is not for the long term.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's event.
Great. Thanks very much, everybody.